Welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Lord. We got some news on the trade front. The Braves made their first couple trades of deadline season, but Alex Anthopoulos told Justin Toscano of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that he still believes there's plenty of room for this team to improve, which when I heard that, I was like, this is music to the ears because, yes, it looks great on paper. And yes, the Braves are going to be World Series favorites pretty much unless the Dodgers go out there and trade for Ohtani, which I think is a 0% chance because I don't think the Angels trade Ohtani, and they've already said they don't want to trade him to the Dodgers. So unless that happens, I don't see anyone else. Maybe if the Orioles got him, they could be in the – I still don't think they'd be favorites over the Braves. So pretty much whatever the Braves do is icing on the cake. But listen, when you have the best team, that does not mean you're going to win a World Series. You need to make sure – you need to go all in as all in can be with this roster. And it sounds like the Braves, one, have resources, which that's kind of what I took it at. Maybe they don't have as much on the prospect side, the prospect capital, but what they do have is on the financial side. And that means they can take a risk on a player that maybe some, like, for example, last year we basically gave up nothing. We gave up Tucker Davidson and Jesse Chavez for Rafael Iglesias because we were willing to take on that $60 million of his contract. That's why they were able to do that. So if there's a trade like that's kind of what I'm hearing, because I think they may not have the prospect capital, but they have the financial resources to take on contracts left and right if they need to improve. And I don't think they need to improve by much, but I think that's a huge factor in these negotiations. So with all that in mind, what is the biggest need for the Braves going forward after these bullpen additions, and what should we expect to happen over the next week?
My focus is still the bullpen. I guess if you want to just, like I said, hope for the best, prepare for the worst, starting rotation, injuries are inevitable. We know Max Fried's coming back. In a perfect world, Max Fried, Spencer Strider, Charlie Morton, Bryce Elder is a formidable four-headed monster. Bryce Elder has slipped of late. He looked better in his last start, but he's still been shaky in his past 3 or 4 starts. So I understand maybe shoring up the back end of the rotation. I could see that. It's just super expensive. Like you always said, in a seller's market, it's even more so expensive. It's still the bullpen for me. I love the Johnson acquisition, high upside, didn't give up much in terms of prospects, but it's still just that high leverage arm. Maybe they believe Pierce Johnson can be that high leverage arm. He was the closer for the Rockies. He wasn't, after, not performing. Maybe he could be that setup guy. I still just want, just overdo it, overcommit to, just bolstering the bullpen. And with that being said, I just want to, say one thing that I was thinking of yesterday, a little bit off topic. We were talking about what were the Braves doing with Michael Soroka? Why are they yo-yoing him back and forth from AAA to the major league roster? It doesn't make a lot of sense after Anthopoulos said, we don't want to do that. We want to keep him up in Atlanta, and that's it. And there's a myriad of reasons for that, confidence, routine, yada, yada, yada. Could he be a trade chip for something big? I mean, Soroka is still a valuable piece because of the high upside. He was there. He's back. He's healthy. Again, he's only, 24 years old or 25 years old. Could he be a trade chip? We were both confused with the move. I would be very willing to part ways with him for, I don't know, the highest leverage arm out there, a Josh Hader-esque person that could come in.
I don't think
it's not reasonable. It's a pipe dream. I'm just saying,
I don't think Soroka's getting anything for trade value. That's my personal opinion. I've seen a lot of people say that, but I just don't think he gets you much of anything. The only thing would be unloading his $2 million, which I don't think is worth it. If someone likes Soroka and is sold on Soroka and thinks they can fix him faster than the Braves can, better than the Braves can, which I think is a pipe dream for most organizations. Like there's a few organizations teams leave, like the Rays and the Braves, who are so good. The Astros would be one where if a guy comes up and he struggles and the Braves and the Rays can't and the Astros can't fix him, there's not many organizations that are going to have better luck. Now, that's not to say someone wouldn't take a chance on him. I just see that as I like, even if they did trade him, I just don't see there being much value. I think they would get like a prospect in return.
That was fair. Just floating the idea. One thing I do want to say, and we'll talk about it, a specific target in the next segment, is left field. I'm still, I brought it up weeks ago how, it's not something a lot of people are talking about, but if Alex Anthopoulos sees value, he will absolutely jump on a deal, especially if it's a deal that could potentially benefit them in the future. You mentioned the Raciel Iglesias trade from last year. Eddie Rosario, he's in a contract year. Marcell Ozuna only has 1 year left. He's not even really a left fielder. He's more of a DH. It still isn't concerning to me. If the value's right, similar to the Pierce Johnson trade where you're just not giving up really anything at all, then, so be it. But I'm not giving up, much of anything. Eddie, who else do you want up at the plate in the playoffs in a high leverage moment than Eddie Rosario? Kevin Pillar is very spotty, but he gives you enough defense, in my opinion. There's not many guys out there that are going to give you, exponentially better defense than Kevin Pillar. So I'm just not exactly, fond of the idea of really targeting a left fielder. For me, it's still in this order: bullpen, starting rotation, left field.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the correct order because I don't think, I'm actually going to put starting pitching ahead, but I'm going to stick with your left point field. I think starting pitching and bullpen are 1A, 1B. But 3 is definitely left field. With that being said, I do think the Braves come out of this trade deadline with a left fielder. I think it's going to be very easy to acquire. I mean, look at what we're able to do in 2021, getting Jock Peterson, Jorge Soler, and Adam Duvall. Do you know? I can name off a couple of those prospects. Bryce Ball got released by the Cubs. Like Alex Jackson or whatever. Was that who we gave up for Adam Duvall? Or was it? Yeah, I'm pretty sure Alex Jackson out of the league. Like
no, that was Jorge. So Alex Jackson went to Miami.
Yeah. No. My Alex Jackson was Miami for Duvall. And then we traded a couple of pitchers that I haven't heard from Kansas City to get Jorge Soler. So basically you gave up nothing to get those guys. So very acquirable pieces. And I'm watching games and it's really grown on me, this idea. I'm watching games where in the 7th inning of big time moments, we're subbing out Eddie Rosario for Kevin Pillar against left-handed pitching. Now let's take that, but they're not going to start Kevin Pillar usually because it's just like he's not as good. He's not that good. We love Kevin Pillar. He's a bench piece. Like that's just what he is. He's a defensive replacement that occasionally can pinch hit and start in a pinch. Let's take that out of the equation. I want to add versatility here. And we're going to get to I'll just spew it now, but a guy like Adam Duvall, who we're going to talk about in the next segment, like you get a right-handed bat, you get better defense, and then you can platoon Rosario and a DH, and then you can start Rosario and Ozuna against lefties or whatever you want to do. You have so many options. You can start d'Arnaud at DH, like that kind of versatility where we can eliminate the Pillar thing and upgrade defensively and get another power bat in this, whether it's a Soler type or a Duvall like, or think those kind of guys who maybe aren't having the best year, but could come to Atlanta and be a better defensive player and hit left-handed pitching for power. I really am intrigued by that. And I think it's not going to be hard to get. And I think the Braves land someone like that at the deadline. With that being said, starting pitching to me has now moved into number 1 spot. And it's simply because of insurance. It's simply because of that. Because if I think about the one thing that could screw the Braves in the playoffs, it's Spencer Strider, Max Fried, or Charlie Morton. Max Fried not coming back and being himself or getting re-injured. Spencer Strider or Charlie Morton going down. If one of those 3 guys goes down, now you have to start Bryce Elder. I would like Bryce Elder to prove to me over the next 2 months that he belongs and he deserves that 4th spot. I think you bring in competition for him. It needs to be a better guy. I don't need Jake Odorizzi. I don't need something like that. You go out there and you spend, do whatever you have to do, bring in some competition, bring in some insurance, and make sure, because that's the one thing that if you lose one of those top 3 guys over the next 2 months, you're in a pickle. You're in a legit pickle. You go from World Series favorites to the playing field is now even. Now, if you lose a reliever, I don't believe that's the case. And if you don't get a reliever, I don't believe that's the case. You lose one of those top 3 guys, you're now in a dicey situation.
Yeah, I understand. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best. I say that a lot, and it rings true. You saw exactly what injuries could do to the Braves starting rotation last year against the Phillies. Max Fried was sick. Spencer Strider just returned from the oblique injury,
and you get eliminated
the Phillies got
by a worse team. And listen, the Phillies are, like I've said, biggest threat, but they are not as good as the Braves. But if you're thinking about any kind of chink that could come in the armor, you saw it there. And now I'm thinking, What's the worst case scenario? What is that? And that's one of the worst case scenarios if one of those three, and God forbid, two of those three. So I think you go out there and, like I said, this is as all in can be. You give up the prospect, whether that's Vaughn Grissom for a rental or something like that, or Vaughn
I was
Grissom
just about to pose the question: what caliber pitcher would you be willing to give up Vaughn Grissom for? Because realistically, you obviously know what I'm asking. What a 1-year rental guy? Who are you going to give up? Yeah,
Lucas Giolito, the White Sox. I'd give him up. Maybe that's giving up too much. I don't know.
I think that's the question. But then if you win the World Series, it doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter who you gave up. So it's a tough question because that is a valuable trade chip. I don't care what other people say. Vaughn Grissom is still a valuable trade chip, even struggling this year in Major League.
No, he is a valuable trade chip, and he's been good in AAA, and there's still a hope that that maybe he can carve out a role for himself. I also think what a lot of people don't talk about enough, and this we talk about it all the time with the Major League guys, but is that locker room presence and is who he is as a person. And I think we saw last year, Vaughn Grissom's a very well liked player. People in the coaching staff like him. He's best friends with Michael Harris. Like, they're not going to trade him for, tiddly widdly. Like, they're going to give him, they're going to get something for him. But like, if you had the opportunity, even if it was a rental for Lucas Giolito and make that rotation that strong, and that's all you had to give up, I don't know if that's too much, but I think starting pitching is a lot at the deadline, and that's something. I also mentioned Michael Kopech yesterday. He has control, so that even interests me a little bit more, even if he's not quite as good as Giolito right now. He's got upside. I think that's intriguing, but there's a number of guys. Listen, I'm telling you, the Braves are going to make a couple moves here. I really think they're going to make a couple moves. And coming up after the break, we're going to talk about one of those potential moves. An old friend from the 2021 World Series team coming home. It could happen.